All right, you guys. Thank you guys for being here on this cold winter night in December. And so I want you guys to take notes. I'm going to talk about creative financing strategies. This webinar hopefully will be in and out in an hour, but this webinar is for you guys. A lot of you guys are familiar to me. You guys have probably heard me talk about creative financing. I in part learned creative financing from books and tapes from this gentleman many, many years ago by the name of Carlton Sheets. He used to come on late at night, infomercials, um, out of like in college or a year out of college. I bought his material and I started buying properties. And so that's how I got started. Like he was like my mentor. He did late night infomercials and I learned from here. So the very first property that I ever bought was seller financing. I was 23 years old. I read an ad in the Washington Post classified section, and I went and made an offer. I felt like I didn't have nothing to lose, and long story short, I was able to get the property. And I've been buying properties using creative financing strategies my whole career. Very first property I ever bought was seller financing. And I've been buying properties like that ever since. I do buy, I do use lenders. I buy the traditional way. But my first option on any property, any motivated seller that I talk to, my very, very first option is some type of creative financing strategy. And so I do that because I don't necessarily want to deal with a bank. I rather either deal with the seller holding the financing, which is seller financing, or take over somebody's mortgage who they already went out and got a mortgage, and I can just take over that. I was talking earlier to the folks who got here early about a phone call that I had today. And so we have a list. So one thing that we do in our office is we pull lists of different zip codes that I like to buy in. And we primarily focus on absentee owner, out of state absentee owners, actually, but absentee owners nonetheless. So we focus on that. And we hire virtual assistants to make these calls. They use dialers and so we have a whole system in place. So one of our virtual assistants called this young lady today and scheduled an appointment, put her in our follow-up system, and through our follow-up system, she must have gotten an email and a text message from us today, and she just happened to pick up the phone and just call. So she called me and she said she wanted to sell her property. And I was telling the folks earlier that one of the reasons why she wants to sell her house is because her husband passed away. And as much as she can't afford the property, she just doesn't want to live there because of, the memories and all that. And so after talking to her for a while, she's had the property for about 4 years. She told me her interest rate was 2.5%. Of course, the first thing I'm thinking about is, wow, I could take that over. I could buy her a house and take over that 2.5% interest. I wouldn't have to go out and get my own loan. I could take over her loan. And so I started asking her questions like, what's your mortgage balance? Because with the mortgage balance, house is in Deanwood. And so, of course, I already know what the after repair value is in Deanwood. She told me what a mortgage balance is. She told me what a monthly payment is. She told me what a monthly payment is. And I already know what for a 3 bedroom, I think hers, no, hers is 4 bedroom. For a 4 bedroom in Deanwood, I could probably easily get $4,000 a month, if not more, from Section 8. And that's what I like about, I like voucher holders. And so I was asking all the pertinent questions, and then I asked her this question. I said, uh, how much money did you want to walk away with? Like, what's your bottom line? You want to sell the property. How much do you want to walk away with? And she said, well, if I could just walk away with, I think she said 75,000, I'm good. That's it. I said, well, this is what I'd like to do. I can give you the 75,000 and just take over your mortgage. I'll take over your mortgage, give you 75,000. The mortgage will stay in your name. I'm going to buy the house and put it in the name of a trust. And so I'll own the property. It'll be deeded over to me in my trust. The mortgage will stay on your property. I said, the value that you have is the 2.5% interest rate. She said, yeah, I know that's valuable. And long story short, she said to me, let's do it. All you got to do is find me a place to move to, and I'll do that deal with you. Now, I just started the conversation that way and ended the conversation that way. I'm probably going to get one of my real estate agents to take her out, find her a property, get that part taken care of first, get her qualified, have one of my agents take her out. And then once she starts to see something that she likes, I'm going to go back and renegotiate with her. I'm probably not going to want to give her the whole 75 up front. I'm definitely going to want to take over her mortgage. I'm definitely going to want to give her the 75, but I probably will maybe give her, maybe, I don't know, 25, 30, 40, 50,000, and then ask her to take a note for the rest of the 75,000 and pay that 75,000 probably within a year. And so I'll take over the mortgage, give her at least enough money to buy her next property, and then have her hold a note for the rest of the money that I pay over a period of time and pay that back with the cash flow, with the positive cash flow that's coming from the property. So I'm not even really necessarily paying her back. The cash flow from the property is paying her back. And then I've got her property for as long as I want, 5 years, 10 years. Um, Probably keep that 2.5% interest rate as long as um, I can. And as long as interest rates, if interest rates drop that low, then it would make sense for me to go ahead and take it, go ahead and refinance and take it out of her name and put it in my name. And so all that makes sense. And so that what I just described was a subject to. And what I described to her was a subject to. I'm buying the property subject to the existing mortgage. I'm keeping the existing mortgage in her name, and I'm using seller financing to have her hold a small note. Bobby, do you have a question?
Yeah, thanks. For her to qualify for her new house, it might have to be a master lease up front. In
Here's
other
the,
words,
and I know why you say that, but luckily, the part I left out is she owns the property. Her name is on the deed, but her deceased husband's name is on the mortgage.
gotcha, perfect.
So that's the case. So I know where you were going with that, and which was great. Um, but the way to get around that, let's just say that it was in her name. The way to get around that is I could just, provide a lease, and that lease will offset that debt on her credit. Good catch though, Bobby. So does everybody understand what I just described? Hopefully you did. Any questions before we really get started? And again, hopefully I say this a number of times. What I just described is what you guys can be doing with the right questions every single day.
Question.
Every every single day. Go ahead.
Hey, Greg. I don't understand the master lease part and why it makes a difference, whether her name or her deceased husband's name is on the mortgage.
So with her deceased husband's name on the mortgage, there's no issues. The lender, when she goes to buy a house, the lender's going to pull her credit, and she's not going to have a mortgage on her credit.
Oh,
If
okay.
the mortgage was in her name when she goes to buy her new house, that debt is on her or is on her credit. And so the lender is going to say, well, you don't qualify to buy a new house because your debt to income ratio is too high because you have maybe some other little debts, but then you have this mortgage on it. Now, a lender would still qualify her if her name was on the mortgage, if she could show that that mortgage is being offset by a lease. So
Okay,
if she
gotcha.
had a lease showing that she's got income coming in that's greater than the mortgage payment, then the lender will qualify. They'll offset that debt.
Got you, got you. And do they count the 100% of the income from the East, or just like a percentage, like 80%, 90%?
Yeah, about 75%.
Okay, okay, got it. Thanks.
All right. So we're going to talk about creative financing. Again, I'm going to run through this. You guys are not going to get this in an hour. You're going to have to continue to read up on it, ask questions. I buy houses creatively. And so if you have a property that you think might be good for creative financing or any type of property, just let me know. You can wholesale it to me. We can partner on it, JV, do joint ventures, whatever. But I've been doing these my whole career. And again, every time I look at a property, that's the first thing I think of. I go through a line of questions in an effort to see whether or not um, it's a good property to do creative finance. And if it's not, I'm happy to do traditional financing. All right, so why this matters? Why does creative financing matter in 2026? Because we're dealing in a market that's got higher interest rates. And so as an investor, you find a great deal, but you don't necessarily want to get it financed, especially if you're flipping or if you're buying and holding with high interest rates. If it's a great deal, you'll deal with it, and then when interest rates come down, you'll just refinance out of it. But that's why this matters because we want to buy properties creatively and save as much money as possible. Traditionally, if we buy a property, let's say we're going to buy and hold, of which I want you guys to do that, um, you're going to put down 20%, sometimes 25%, but let's just say 20%. In most creative financing deals, you're putting down 5%, or sometimes less than that. You're not going through a credit check. Nobody's checking your credit. There's not a whole bunch of documents that you've got to provide, like you have to provide to a lender. And so it's just a lot easier. So traditional financing has harder approvals. Their monthly payments are higher because the interest rates are higher. And then buyer confidence is a lot lower. So we do have buyers, traditional buyers that aren't buying as many houses because there's not a lot of houses on the market right now in this market. So smart investors are still closing deals using creative financing. And creative financing is not new. There's nothing that I'm going to teach you today that's new. When I got into the business many moons ago, we were in a down market, and investors, actually buyers, traditional buyers, retail buyers are buying properties using creative financing strategies. They were doing subject twos, either calling it subject to or contracts, land installment contracts. That's what we were doing with alcohol back in the day. But none of this stuff is new. You just have to learn these concepts so that when you come across an opportunity, you know which questions to ask and then see if it's a good opportunity. Some of you guys might be thinking, well, I can't buy a property now because an investment property because of my credit, or I don't have a lot of cash. With creative financing, no one's checking your credit, and you don't need a lot of cash to do this. All right, the myth. You can't invest with high interest rates. You can. In reality, you just can't invest the old way. 2026 rewards creativity, negotiation, structure, not just credit scores. And so if it's and so we're in a market where it's a higher interest rate, but if you use creative financing strategies, you're taking over somebody, especially if it's a subject to, you're taking over somebody's mortgage like the lady that I talked to today, who's got a 2.5% interest rate. All right, what is creative financing? Creative financing allows you to buy property without relying solely on traditional bank loans. Instead, you use seller emotion, existing financing, alternative structures, and negotiating terms and skill. You focus on terms instead of rates. Like I asked the lady today, I was like, what do you really want? How much money do you need? How much do you want to walk away with? And so sometimes you just start there and work yourself backwards. She wants $75,000, which I thought was a lot, but the numbers did make sense, but it was a lot. I didn't want to give up 75,000, knowing that I'm going to still have to go in there and spruce the house up a little bit, and then put it on the market. And so what I eventually plan to do, like I said, is have her take a note for a part of that 75,000. You got to give them something. And in this case, I've got to give her enough to buy her next house and then see if she'll take a note for the rest. All right. Um, the four main um, creative financing strategies and the ones that I've used, the first three I use quite often, subject to of which I just talked about, seller financing, lease options, and wraparound mortgages. We'll talk about those. And then we'll talk also about three or four other strategies that I use that you should be using too. All right, we start with subject two. And we start here because it's my favorite, actually. And so what is it? You take over a motivated seller's existing mortgage payments without getting a new loan in your name. And so I've got a property now that I'm under contract with that it's in Northeast DC. It's in Fort Lincoln. Is that Fort Lincoln? Yeah, Fort Lincoln, where I'm buying a property. They're leaving the mortgage on the property, and then I'm taking over that mortgage. I'm paying him some money, not a lot, because I've also have to bring the mortgage current, but all the numbers make sense. He's probably has about 150, $175,000 in equity. Of course, the mortgage payment is low. They've been in there for a while, and so we're going to go to settlement. Again, I'm putting the property, when I buy the property, I'm putting it in a trust. Can somebody tell me, and some of you guys should know the answer to this, why am I, when I buy the property, why am I putting the property in the name of a trust? I'm leaving the existing mortgage on the property, but I'm putting the name of the buyer into a trust. Essay, talk to me, Essay.
My bad, I couldn't get off the mute. The reason why you do that, if I remember correctly, is because you don't want the bank to all of a sudden make you pay the mortgage up front quicker than what you would normally have to pay it off. So the trust kind of protects that property. Am I right on that?
Yeah, and so there's when one buys a property, in the deed, there's is what's called there's a mortgagee clause called a due on sale clause. And so what that means is if the bank finds out that you've sold the property without paying off the mortgage, they can call the loan, meaning today all the loan is due. And so to keep them from doing that or even knowing about it, it's smarter to put the property in the name of a trust so that even if they do see this, because like I said, subject to is not anything new anymore. Just tons and tons of investors across the country doing it. Pace Morby has kind of popularized it. And so you've got a lot of people doing, a lot of investors doing subject twos, and the banks are finding out about it. And so the banks are calling the loans. If you put the property in a trust, it makes it look like what? Somebody tell me. If you put the property in a trust and the bank finds out that it's in a trust, what's the bank going to think? Anybody know the answer to that? The bank is going to think that you're responsibly doing estate planning. Because when one does estate planning, they put the name of the properties in trust, revocable trust, land trust. You know, you put the name of the property in a trust. So if one passes away, there's really no issues with with estate taxes and things like that for the property. So they put the name of the property in the trust. So it looks like you're preparing and doing estate planning. So that's what you want to do. And so that's what I do on my subject twos. And there's many other ways that there's subject to insurance that you can buy insurance just in case they call a loan. And so there's a number of things that you can do so that they don't call the loan. All right. And so so we're going to take over the existing mortgage without getting a new mortgage in our name. It's perfect when the seller has a low interest rate. And so that's why it's so relevant now because right after the pandemic, so 2020, 2021, 2022, and even before that, many buyers at that time had very, very low interest rates. It was in the latter part of 2002 when interest rates started going up, started creeping up, creeping up, creeping up, creeping up. And it went up to, I mean, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, like 8%, 8.5%. And so you've got a large amount of sellers uh, who or homeowners who have loans, even they even refinance these loans, and they've got an incredibly perfect interest rate. I mean, my interest rate is 3%, but I've got my loan many years ago, and so those are the loans that you want to try to take over, and consequently, those are the loans that a lot of loan modifications are coming due. Adjustable rate mortgages are coming due now. And so you got a lot of people who can't afford their houses anymore. And then, of course, in the DMV, you've got a lot of people who unfortunately have to sell because they lost their jobs. So they're selling and they've got low interest rates. Seller needs relief and the property has equity. So as an investor, we're not just taking over a property because we can. It still has to make sense. It still has to cash flow. And I would say at least $600, $700 a month in positive cash flow. Although what I'm finding is with these subject to properties, most of them are cash flowing over $1,000 a month getting started. And they've got to have a certain amount of equity. We don't want to just break even. We want to have some equity in the property. But again, what I'm finding is the property, because they've owned these properties now, it's 2025, a minimum of 3 or 4 years now. So there's some equity, actually a great bit of equity. So what I'm finding is you're actually also buying these properties with, in some cases, more than $100,000 in equity. And so you're getting cash flow and equity when you're taking over these mortgages. And again, you're not going out finding these, having to get a loan. Like you control the property, and then we keep the loan in place. So we control the property, put in our name, but we're going to keep that loan in place. Any questions so far, you guys? The benefits of subject to no bank qualifications, no new high rate loans, faster closings, lower monthly payments because the interest rates are low, and huge negotiation leverage. Like especially if they're distressed. The property in Fort Lincoln getting ready to lose the property. I've got another one one of our cold callers called in right in Southwest, really on the Southwest Southeast line, like Martin Luther King Avenue, close to South Capitol Street. I've got a meeting with her the first week of the month, so in 30 days or less than 30 days. She's 3 months behind. She's got a newer looking townhouse. They built some newer townhouses over by Hadley Hospital for those who know that area. Um, I know Dana knows that area. He used to live over there by Hadley Hospital. Um, and so she wants to sell. And I said, well, this is what we'll do. I think her interest rate is like 3.5%. I said, I'll take over the mortgage. Um, you get your tenant out. She said, well, they're already moving out. And I'll give you, I said 10,000. And she said, well, no, I want 20,000. And so she's got equity. She's got great cash flow. And so I might meet her in the middle and say 15,000. And I might even break up some of those payments. But you can negotiate, and this is one way to negotiate using creative financing, especially on subject to properties.
So Greg, I stepped away and I heard my name called. I don't know if it was in vain or not, but I heard my name called. Where did I used to live at?
In Southwest over by Hadley Hospital.
Okay, okay. Right. That's the deal you were telling about the other day.
Yeah, the many places that you used to live.
Yeah, that was a more of a hangout than a live. But
Okay.
yes, I know what you're talking about.
You talked about the
So
hang.
how's that going? Is that still moving along?
Yeah, I mean,
Or-
she's excited. She's in Atlanta now. She bought the house, lived in it, rented it out, moved to Atlanta, and then something happened in her life where she's behind. And so
Okay.
we received that one through a call. Our virtual assistants called that zip code 20032 and scheduled that appointment. So that one's going good.
Good.
All right,
Hey,
so
hey, Greg,
go ahead, Luis.
quick question. Um, what your experience within this area, set up a trust, how difficult or hard or expensive it is from your experience? I know it can vary, but from your experience, what do you think about that? Like that
It's very
cost?
easy. So you get an attorney to do it. So our investor-friendly title company, our attorney, Evelyn, she does them. She's got a template. It takes her maybe an hour or two, but not even an hour to do it. She charges 1,700 to set up the trust for you.
And it depends on how complex it is as well, though. So
It-
the
it-
price, that price probably, well, I pay a lot more than that, Greg. Um, so it depends, I think, how complex it is, Luis,
Okay.
as far as, that's pretty good, 1,700.
yeah,
Is that smart settlements? Do they have a lawyer?
yeah. Evelyn is one of the lawyers.
That's
Okay.
Evelyn Miller.
Yeah,
Okay.
Evelyn
Thanks,
Miller.
Dana.
Hey, how you doing, Bob?
So those you guys are two of our coaching students who are actively buying properties. Those guys are doing it. So that's good. All right. So we just talked about subject two, and so let's talk about seller financing. And so seller financing is when the seller becomes the bank. The seller is the bank. You make payments directly to the seller. That's seller financing. It's great when we use it generally. If I'm asking questions, someone wants to sell their house, one of the first questions is, I'll ask, what is your motivation? Why do you want to sell the house? Then I'll ask, how much do you owe on the house? I want to know if there's any equity or not. If they tell me I own the property free and clear, of which a lot of sellers own their properties free and clear, especially if you're talking to like a baby boomer. Uh, 70% of all baby boomers own their properties free and clear, then the first thing you think about is, or I think about, is I'm gonna get them to be the bank. I'm gonna get them to be my bank because a lot of them don't even want that lump sum of money. And so let's say they're selling a property, let's just say it's for 300,000. You give them 300,000. What's it? Somebody tell me. Unmute yourself. What's the negative part about giving them the 300,000? Anything negative about that? It's a lot
If
of
it's
money.
1031.
Oh, a lot of taxes.
They
Yep.
owe a lot of taxes. So they owe a lot in capital gain taxes. There are some of them are just retiring. They're in a certain tax bracket. They owe a lot of taxes on that money. And so what a lot of sellers want to do is not take that hit on the taxes right now. And so they'll be the bank. Don't give me 300,000. You can give me a deposit, a down payment, and then you negotiate that 5%, 10%, whatever it is, and then let them start taking monthly payments. Sometimes they'll want to do it for 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. Now they're in a lower tax bracket. Now they can take the hit. And then you just make sure you set up the payments. And I have the paperwork. I can help set up the structure of it where it's principal and interest payments. It's not like a balloon loan where it's interest only. You want your payments to be principal and interest so that if you keep the property for 5 years or 10 years, some of that principal is eliminated because it's PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So you make sure those payments are set up that way. But you've got a lot of sellers that are open to seller financing, you guys. And so we if they're a tired landlord, they own the properties free and clear, motivated, and sometimes with estate properties, they'll be willing to do that. The key elements to negotiate, you're going to negotiate the down payment. Obviously, as an investor, we want those terms to be favorable to us. And so maybe 5%. Of course, the interest rates, we want them to be favorable. And so in this day and age, we'll try to see if we can get away with 3%, 4%. We're negotiating, and so then whatever that is for the monthly payment, and if it has to be balloon terms, then that's fine too. You just work out all those numbers. And again, I have all the paperwork, or if you find a deal, you need help, or you want to joint venture or even wholesale the deal, I'm happy to do so. But there's a lot of seller financing, a lot of sellers who are selling their properties now at a discount. I talked to a guy today, somebody else I talked to today in Chevrolet. He's in Chevrolet. He owns the property free and clear. And Keith, your VAs are doing a great job, by the way. And so this guy, I'm going to look at the property. I'm scheduled for Saturday, but I might try to go by there tomorrow. His niece is living in the property. He said, "What do you want to buy the property for?" And I didn't feel like doing rent and comp, so I just looked at the tax record. But I know Chevrolet, and I just gave him a quote from the tax record. And I said, "Well, the tax record says this." He said, "Oh, yeah, I thought it was higher." I said, "No." I said, "What's your email address?" So in real time, I emailed him the tax record. He took a look at it. He said, "Okay, but we can talk." So I'm gonna go look at his property, and then I'm gonna make him an offer. And my offer is going to consist of him holding the financing, doing seller financing. And I'm going to talk to him about all the benefits for him to do so. But he owns that property free and clear. And so first thing you think about, they own it free and clear. You're going to be my bank. And I'm going to be paying you for the next 5 years or 10 years, however you set it up. But you're going to be my bank. That's seller financing, you guys. And it you've got to write up the contract. You've got to write up the terms of the financing. And again, I'm happy to help you guys through that. All right, how we doing with time? Okay. All right, lease options. All right, Marlene has a question. When you say free and clear, that means no liens on the property. Correct. No liens of any kind, including mortgage liens. So they own it free and clear. There's no mortgage liens and no other kind of liens on the property. That's correct, Marlene. Got a lot of people. And again, baby boomers, they own these properties free and clear. 70%. That's a high percentage, you guys. All right, lease options. Love lease options. You control, if you're taking notes, put control in capital letters or circle it. You control the property now and you buy it later. Um, you lease the property. You're not buying the property, you're leasing the property. You're locking in on the purchase price. So let's say that you do a lease option where you have the option to buy the property. And let's just say it's for 2 years. I would always suggest a minimum of 2 years. Today, I'm locking into the price today. I'm going to try to buy it to lock it in today with a little bit of equity. But we're locking into the price today. Um, and then we're buying it in 2 years. What happens between now and 2 years? We locked it in today with some equity. In 2 years, we gain even more equity through appreciation. So the profit is from the appreciation and then in the cash flow. Obviously, we're going to set up a lease where we can also sublease the property. And so my suggestion on these is we're going to have a lease. We're going to lease it from the owner. We're going to lock into the price. But the lease is going to be, let's say the market lease in an area is, I don't know, 3,600 a month. We're going to try to lease it for 3,000 a month. So that we're going to also put in the agreement we have the right not only to buy the property, but to also sublease the property. I did one in I always talk about the one I did, my first house in Prince George's County. It was a dream home for me at 30 years old. I couldn't afford the property, but I said, you know what? I've got to have this property. I'm gonna figure out a way. It was a nice, for me, big 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath home in a cul-de-sac, back to a lake, 2 car garage. It was like, you know, I got to have this house. So I said, I can't afford it, can't go to a bank, I'm not making enough money, 30 years old. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna bet on myself that I can buy this property in 2 years. I'm gonna bet on myself. I'm gonna hustle and I'm gonna bet on myself. And so that's what I did. I offered them a lease option for 2 years. I actually didn't sublease the property. I actually lived in the property. And so they agreed. So we did I did a lease option to buy, lived in the property for the 2 years, and I won the bet. In 2 years, I was ready to buy, and I bought the property. And so that's what a lease option is. As an investor, we can take over properties. We can control the properties now and then buy them later, or we can wholesale those properties later. Or the tenant that comes in, there's a guy in the Midwest that he has a whole business on lease options. And what he does is he subleases the properties for 2 years and sells them to the tenant that he sublet the property to. He's got a whole business, does like 100 of them a year, and he's just controlling the properties with an option to buy, an option to sublease. He's finding buyers that can't buy now, but he works with them or his team works with them so that they can buy later, and he sells those properties to them a couple years later. That's what he does, and that's a lease option. And so Marlene is asking, so would this be similar to rent to own? Absolutely, same thing. Lease option, rent with option to buy, lease to own. Say, pretty much all the same thing. Yes, Marlene. This is ideal for low cash investors. It's ideal for strategy stacking. And what I like about that, the strategy stacking is you can, if you guys find properties, and honestly, lease options are on the MLS. They're on Redfin every single day. I can go in there now and find one. It's either someone that's having a hard time selling their house, so you offer a lease option, or somebody that's renting their house, maybe having a hard time renting, you can offer that as well, especially if it's a property that's in what we call your buy box, your area that you want to buy in and the type of property that you want to buy. And so Quentin is asking a question, a good question. Should we try to get the seller to put some of our money towards the purchase? Um, Absolutely. Do banks accept that? Yeah. And so it's just let's just say I think on my deal, I don't quite remember because it's been years ago that I don't know, maybe $300 a month went towards my deposit, my earnest money deposit. And so we just used it as an EMD, the earnest money deposit. That's how we did it. And so on the settlement statement, whatever that number was, let's just say it was $6,000. Um, it just went on the settlement statement as the earnest money deposit. But yeah, you can do that as well. Good question. So lease options are something for you guys to think about um, as a strategy. You guys have some good questions. Um, there are wraparound mortgages, assumable. So here's some other strategies. And so a lot of investors we can still assume loans, especially like a VA loan. You can assume a VA loan. Here's a question. Do you have to be a veteran in order to assume a VA loan? Somebody unmute yourself or put in the chat. Do you have to be a veteran in order to assume a VA loan?
I would say
Anybody?
yes.
I
Huh?
thought you had to.
Yeah, I would say yes.
I think no. To assume someone else's VA loan, I think no.
Well, to assume it, but
So
I think that would depend. Wouldn't the lender have something? I mean,
at that
VA
point,
would have something to say something about that, wouldn't they?
But wouldn't the person have to qualify?
yeah, and so the answer is you don't have to be a veteran to assume a VA loan. Now, you do have to qualify to purchase the loan. The lender is just not going to let anybody assume a loan. An assumption, honestly, is really you're buying a property, but you're just buying it on the current terms of the loan. And so if you've got a VA and you're buying a property, and then that's another question you want to ask. Um, are you are is it a VA loan or an FHA loan? And then if so, you might want to start thinking about, well, maybe I can assume this loan. So assumables are good. And again, on a VA, you don't have to be a veteran in order to assume that loan. You can do joint venture as a creative financing strategy. You may not. I think I talked to somebody today. I don't remember. You may not have the cash to buy, but you've got the credit. And so you can you and whichever one you don't have, you can do a joint venture with someone else who has that strength, and you guys can buy properties together, flip properties, buy and hold. And so, and you can do it faster and you can do more using somebody else's skill set um, and not just yours. And so we talk a lot about being in a community, and a number of my coaching students are on here. And as a matter of fact, one of my coaching students on here, he actually did do a joint venture with another student. He had a certain strength. The other investor had a certain strength. They came together with differing strengths, but they came together very, very powerful and bought a property together. And so joint ventures is another way that you guys can get creative to buy properties. Um, Using a private money lender, we often use private money lenders. My typical flip is I'll buy a property to flip. I'll use a hard money lender to buy the property, so for acquisition and for rehab. And then I still need money to come to the table with for closing costs and to get my contractor started. I'll use a private lender for my closing costs and to get my contractor started, which means I'm coming to the table with none of my own money. I'm buying it with a hard money lender and a private lender. And so you can use private lenders sort of as what we call bridge loans to come up with the money that you may or may not have for closing costs, which means I flip properties without using any of my own money. And then once the house sells, I'll pay back the hard money lender and I'll pay back the private lender. If you have equity in your properties, you guys, if you own a property that you live in, or if you own investment properties, and I did this a couple years ago when interest rates were good, were great. I took one of my properties and I did a cash out refinance. So I refinanced, I pulled cash out. When you pull cash out of your own property, that's not a taxable event. So I didn't have to pay any capital gain taxes. And then I used that money to buy another property. And so that's something else that you guys might want to think about. And
But
then
to do,
go ahead.
but to do that, you also still need to have some decent credit to even do that, even if you got equity.
Not necessarily. So you're going to push. So you're going to. You said decent credit.
I,
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
in order,
So if you
right,
want to
in order for
refinance,
the,
they're going to look at your credit. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So look,
that's another
we're
hurdle.
huh?
I say, so that's another hurdle.
It's just that if it is a hurdle, it just simply means that that strategy, a cash out refinance, is not for you. It
Right.
just means that you've got to focus on either a lease option, seller financing, or a subject to, because nobody's checking your credit on those. And so I'm just kind of giving you guys a number of different strategies. I just only want you to focus on one or two, not all of these. And if it's a strategy that doesn't fit where you are today, don't use it. But a lease option, I mean, if you can bet on yourself, and you don't even have to bet on yourself, but let's just say you do a lease option for 2 years, thinking, okay, in 2 years I'll be ready. My credit will be worthy. But even if you don't, even if it's not, and it's a great deal, I'll buy the deal. Another cash buyer will buy the deal. After the 2 years, if you can't buy it, you can get an extension. Maybe they'll grant you an extension for another year, or you can wholesale the deal, or whoever you sublet to may want to buy the deal from you, or you can always wholesale the deal. You know,
That was a good strategy for say your credit wasn't worthy enough for you to get any cash from your equity. Um,
It's okay. If you
That's
find a property today and you ask them, you go through a series of questions. I'm gonna go through some in a minute. And it seems like they're open to doing some type of creative financing.
mhm.
Just call me. You can wholesale that deal to me. We can partner on that deal, whatever the case may be. You found the deal, so you have the gold. And then now somebody else, if there's a lot of money in the deal, they'll be happy to take the deal off your hands, either through a wholesale fee or partnering with you. But the key is to find the deal, ask the right questions to see how you can help them. You with me?
Yes.
All right, where do we leave off? Burr. And so the Burr method is another one. We're buying a property, right? We're renovating the property. Um, we're renting the property out, refinancing the property, and then doing a cash out refinance, and then repeating the process with the same money. That's the Burr method. All of these strategies I'm going to go over in detail. Actually, next week we start our 4-day course. We also have a next Saturday, a week from this Saturday, or really a week from tomorrow, we have an opportunity to actually, I'm going out in the field in Baltimore to look at these kind of opportunities to use creative financing strategies. And so, in a minute, I'll show you guys exactly what we're doing, but we'll be going out in the field. We'll be learning more about this on Friday in a Zoom call, and then we'll go out in the field and actually look at these properties, physically go look at these properties next Saturday, and then we'll have lunch at one of the at Sabatino's in Little Italy in Baltimore, and just kind of brainstorm, debrief, and just kind of go over what we just learned.
So the acronym BRRR again is buy, renting.
Buy the property right. We're going to renovate the property. Then we're going to rent the property. And then we're going to refinance the property because most of us are buying these properties using short-term financing. And then the last R is to repeat the process. So buy,
Renovate.
renovate, rent, refinance, and then repeat the process.
Okay.
So Marlene, in the end, I'm going to give you, I'll put it in the chat now. So you can just go to Bennett bootcamps.com to join us on Saturday. I'll go over that towards the end, but you can click on the link now if you like. Bennett, I put it in the chat, bennettbootcamps.com. All right. What time? Okay. All right, the shift. Focus on terms, you guys. Stop asking what is the interest rate. Start asking what terms can we create that benefit both sides. I love that. What terms can we create to benefit both sides? To benefit you, you want to be able to buy this house without having to go out and get a loan. Now let's see what they need. I asked the lady today, how much in this transaction, how much money do you want to walk away with? Like, let's start there. And of course, you guys, um, whatever the number is, let's say they say 100,000, I want to walk away with 100,000. The lady on Martin Luther King Avenue, she said, I want to walk away with 20,000. And of course, whatever number they throw out, you initially might say yes, but always know you're going to go back and renegotiate that number. You might just, she says 20, or let's just say, yeah, she says 20,000. And you might say, well, I was thinking 10, but I'll meet you halfway at 15. Always, everything's a negotiation. So we're negotiating. They say they want 100, say, I was thinking 50. Can we meet halfway at 75? Obviously you're going to look at the numbers and maybe at 100, that's a great deal, especially as long as I'll give you the 100, but can I just give you 25 up front? and then finance the rest. You hold a note for the rest. And so that's how we do that. And whatever the number is, but of course, all the numbers have to make sense. You've got to buy the property with equity. You've got to buy the property with cash flow. All right,
Can you hear me? Can I ask a question?
go ahead, Jeffrey.
I'm brand new to getting into real estate investing, and I found you on Meetup, and I'm just listening and very interested in what you're teaching here. How I can become involved with you with your group, or how I can stay in contact with you and continue to learn.
And so we have a community. We have a coaching program. We go out in the field like I just described, and we'll be going out next week. I have an inner circle. I'll talk more about that in the end. And
Okay.
we only got one or two more slides. And so I'll talk more about how you can stay connected. So Jeffrey, how did you find out about this webinar? Did you register for this webinar and then got reminders? Jeffrey, I'm sure he did. Okay. All right. Who's creative financing for? So it's for, go ahead, Jeffrey.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was on mute. Yes, I did sign up for it through Meetup when I found you. So that's how I got to this meeting tonight.
Okay. Okay. So I'm sure we have your information. All right. I mean, I'll give you more information on how you can stay connected with us.
That'd be great.
You're welcome. So who's creative financing for? It's for everybody on here, you guys. It's for real estate investors, investors short on cash. It's for investors who have a lot of cash. We're just looking for a great deal where we don't necessarily have to go out and get financing. And so if you're an investor and you want to invest and your mindset is to invest and to build wealth, to build generational wealth, to retire financially free, one of the first things I want you guys thinking about when you're talking to someone that wants to sell their property is how can I buy this property using one of the creative financing strategies? How can I do that? Like I did, I was 30 years old, found my dream home at the time and couldn't qualify to buy it, but in my mind I was like, I'm gonna buy this house, and I just figured it out. I read that chapter from Carlton Sheets on lease options. I offered them a lease option and they took it. And then in 2 years, I was ready. Back then I was selling real estate. I had just gotten my real estate license. I was selling real estate, investing, and by the time that 2 years was up, I was ready. And so creative financing is for all of us. Buyers with limited credit. And so if you have limited credit, if your credit is not worthy, this is for you. I don't want the excuse to be, well, I've got bad credit or I don't have a 680 credit score. I can't buy real estate. No, you can buy. You just got to know how to buy. And it's lease option, it's subject to, it's seller financing. It's one of the creative financing strategies. Wholesalers wanting control. If you're a wholesaler and you want control, then this is the way to do it. This is the way to do it because wholesalers, if you're a wholesaler and you're out hustling, you're finding deals and you're getting wholesale fees, some of these deals are creative financing deals that either you should be buying yourself as a wholesaler or you partner. You do joint ventures. You partner with someone else to get these deals. When I first started, I could only afford one house. I mean, I was young. I was 23 years old, buying properties, and I could only afford one property a year, and that was my goal to buy and hold one property a year. But I was still finding deals. In my mind, I had the gold. I had what everybody else wanted. I just couldn't afford it. And so I just started partnering with people. And that's how I learned how to flip properties. I wasn't wholesaling. I said, I have a great opportunity. If you put up the money, we can partner, we can JV and buy these properties. And then a gentleman by the name of Thurman Battle, him and I, many moons ago, we just bought up a whole bunch of properties and flipped them. Um, Flippers reduced risk is four, and landlords seeking cash flow. So this last bullet point, landlords seeking cash flow. That's what I want for you guys. I want eventually for you guys to be a landlord and for you to get cash flow. Obviously, the longer you hold on to the property, you're going to have equity through appreciation. But ultimately, this is what I want for you guys because I've been doing this for a long time now. Started young, not young anymore, but in my travels, in my journey, what I've seen is the investors who hold on to the properties. I've seen my properties double in value. I've seen other investors with millions of dollars in equity. And it's only that because they held on to the properties, they took care of the properties, they enjoyed the cash flow, they took care of their tenants, and then slowly but surely they looked up and the property values just kept going up and up and up and up. In our area, many of you guys have heard me say this, property values double, double in 15 years, double. And in some areas in the DMV, double in 10 years, double in 10 years. And so we let the properties do what they do, go up in value while we're enjoying the cash flow as landlords, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. And so we've got to acquire as many properties as possible. And we do that in part by using creative financing strategies, in part. Now, sometimes we'll go out and get a loan, but what we want to focus on is building generational wealth, having as many properties as we can, but to try to acquire them as cheaply as possible using these strategies. I hope you guys are hearing me. Seller conversation
Yep.
scripts.
Yep.
You,
We're hearing it.
you hearing it, Bobby?
Yes, sir.
All right. Here's a script. Many scripts. Here's one. Instead of waiting on a buyer to qualify, what if I made payments that meet your needs and relieve you immediately? Like the girl said today, she said, I'm ready to sell now. I want to sell now. I want to get out of this neighborhood for my kids. The house is haunting me because my husband passed away. I'm ready to sell now. I said, well, I can buy your house now, but where are you going to move to? She said, well, that's the issue. I got to find a place. And so I said, well, let me get you qualified. I have one of my agents take you out. And as soon as that happens, she's ready to go. I want to relieve her of that pain. I want to help her out as much as I can, obviously helping myself out. But the first thought is, what can I do to help her out? And so creative deals require confidence and clarity. Like we've got to be clear. Now, oftentimes I'm explaining subject to, and that's my go-to, it's my favorite because I want to own the property. Sometimes when I'm explaining it, I want to take your property over. I want to own their property, but keep the mortgage in your name. They don't understand it. There's no clarity. And I'll approach it from different angles. They don't understand it, but they understand lease options, lease with an option to buy. They've heard of that. Many people have heard of that. So sometimes I'll just shift the conversation to that, and I'm happy to do a lease option for a couple years as opposed to a subject to, only because they understand it. And I don't want to try to get them to understand what they're like. The lady today, she quickly understood it. The lady on Martin Luther King quickly understood it, but sometimes they don't understand it. So I don't want to force it on them. I want to speak a language that they understand. So sometimes I'll just ship to a lease option because they understand it. I'm going to rent your house out, and in 2 years, I'm going to buy it. We'll lock into a sales price now. I'll pay the rent. Um, they understand that. So just keep that in mind. There's got to be clarity. Deal structure, I've talked about deal structure, but you've got a property, $300,000 in existing loan. Um, let's see, property value, $350,000. Existing loan is 220. So ARV is 350. The existing loan balance is 210. They have a interest rate of 3.5%. And so you want to buy the property subject to, you can put 10,000 down, $10,000 down, um, or less, whatever you're able to negotiate. And in rent for cash flow, profit in this scenario is going to be around $600 a month, but you've got $140,000 in equity. You got $140,000 in equity, which, depending on where the property is, that property values are going to go up. And you're starting with $600 positive cash flow every month with the equity. But the biggest coup or the biggest benefit is you are able to acquire this property without having to go out and get a loan. Nobody checked your credit, didn't nope, didn't show bank statements, pay stubs, W-2s, none of that stuff. That's the biggest coup. All right, protecting yourself. Always use proper contracts. We have all the contracts. Let attorneys review. Use an investor-friendly title company, and make sure that you clear all disclosures. Make sure that there's no liens on the property, no judgments. You want to make sure that the title company, they do their job, their due diligence. You always want to make sure that there's title insurance on the property. All right, how to find these deals? How are we finding these deals? The way I find these deals, you guys, is I just do marketing. I do marketing. I do look for tired landlords. I do look for pre-foreclosures. You can find those. You can go to propwire.com, which is a free site, and you can put in the filters, tired landlords. You can put in pre-foreclosures, and you get a list. What we've been putting in lately is we'll pick a zip code that we like, and then I'll just put in out of state. Write this down, you guys. Out of state absentee owners is what we put in. And then I'll pull a list from there. Out of state absentee owners is my number one. My number two is pre-foreclosure list. So we'll pull the list, we'll skip trace to get the phone numbers, and then we'll call. So either you're calling, or in our case, our virtual assistants call. Um, and I think that tired landlords or absentee owners is the best list. Pre-foreclosures obviously as well. I mean, probate is good for creative financing. Um, Divorce is okay. Relocating is okay as well. All right. Common objections and responses. I don't want to stay on the loan. So they may say, I don't want to, you're explaining subject to, they have to stay on the loan. They may say, I don't want to stay on the loan. Your response is, we use legal protection and servicing companies. And so as the new owner of the property, you can make the payments to you can hire a servicing company to make the payments to. Some of you guys are making your mortgage payments to a servicing company now. And so you can actually hire a servicing company to make the payments to, and then the servicing company will pay the mortgage company. Or you can pay them directly, but to ease the fears of the homeowner, you can say, I'm going to pay to a servicing company. And what I like about a servicing company, and they're very, very inexpensive, they keep really good records for both you and the owner of the payments being made. So let's just say down the line, somebody asked a question about uh, like rent or payments being made because they may want to buy another house down the line. You can always go to your servicing company and say, give me a record. And then you could show that record of payments to the lender, and it shows that payments are being made to that property. This sounds risky. Your response is it's structured with professional supervision. And so if they're saying it sounds risky, and sometimes we'll talk to a seller, and they just it's foreign to them, they just don't want to do it. And so then now you try to work out more of a traditional way, but it sounds risky. It's not. It's very, very professional. I've done a number of these. So you're going to get a lot of objections. You just got to know how to overcome them. All right, 2026 is right around the corner, you guys. We've got less than 30 days. I want you to get your strategy together, your action plan. Learn these strategies, identify the motivated sellers, practice your scripts, partner. I'm very, very open to partnering. We've got a number of people in our coaching program that's open to partnering with you. Some of them are on the call now. And then the biggest thing, you guys, in 2026, you guys are on this webinar for a reason. And the biggest thing for 2026 is take action and take a lot of action. Stay connected in a community where you're talking about real estate investing every day, every week, every month. And that's the only way that you're going to be successful. Like you've got to be in a community. We've got a great community. Like I said, a number of my people are on here. Um, but you've got to be part of a community. To be honest, whether it's my community or another, like you've got to be part of um, a community where you're talking real estate investing and you're sharing successes, you're sharing failures, you're sharing resources, you're partnering with each other, you're holding each other accountable. We have accountability groups in our group. And so that's how you're going to be successful. Success mindset, high rates are not the enemy. So high interest rates are not the enemy. Lack of knowledge is. 2026 rewards the prepared investor. 2026 rewards the prepared investor. And it's all about mindset, you guys. You got to have the right mindset going into 2026. I want 2026 to be your best year ever, and it starts now. We're not going to get started in June or July. We start right now in December. So, we can hit the road running for next year, wherever you are. And even if your credit is not worthy, even if you don't have a lot of money, um, what I focused on as a young investor is just finding the deals. And then I had the goal, somebody was going to partner with me because people like making money. And so you get a partner. Um, People will do joint ventures with you. And so don't have the mindset, well, I can't do this. I don't have the money. I don't have the credit. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the support. We are your support system, you guys. We are your support system. So you have no excuses not to be successful. It's all on you. Questions? Questions, anybody?
I think you covered any I may have had. And
Okay.
those that I don't have now, I don't know that I don't have them.
You're gonna have some. You can contact me. All right. I think here's a question. With the seller financing, are there any interests? And if so, what are the differences in interest rates included and the difference between seller financing and other financing? And so, yeah, so with seller financing, you do charge an interest rate and it's whatever you're able to negotiate. Obviously, you want to negotiate an interest rate lower than the interest rates that are out here. And so it's whatever you can negotiate is what the interest rate is on seller financing. All right, any suggestions on how to identify motivated sellers in the MLS? So Kimberly, that's a good question. And so yeah, there's a number of ways. One is if the listing has been on the market, Kimberly, for at least 30 days, they're motivated to sell. Especially
After
if
30 days. Okay.
especially if you see them coming down on the price, then they're motivated to sell. So here's what you do. So we're gonna go to search, we're gonna go to residential sales. Let's say that we're gonna choose a zip code, 20743.
Hmm.
So we're looking for properties in 20743. We're gonna go to active listings there. And if we put that they've been on the market for at least 30 days, you see,
Hmm.
see what I'm doing, Kimberly?
Yes, I do. Yep. Yep.
And then we're going to hit results. I think there's 49 of them. And then I'm going to go over here to price and click on the word price. It's going to put them in order from high to low. And then I'm
Hmm.
going to start with these. And so, for example, this is probably a foreclosure since oh, this is a trailer. That's why.
Yeah, that's why they're so cheap. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this one, actually, me and Dana looked at this property the other day. So this one's at 204. It's been on the market for 75 days. It started off at 214. Even though it's a bank property, they're motivated. You probably can make an offer. I think we tried to make an offer at 165, something like that, on this one because it's been on the market for so long. And then you
And
just go,
that was my question as far as, how, if there's a recommended amount or percentage that you would offer because these are active listings, without being able to, without offending the,
it's not about offending. You've got to, and it's more than this class, but you've got to run your numbers. So here's a property. It's on Booker Drive,
mm,
another stomping ground for Dana. They're selling this one for 254. It's been on the market for 48 days. They started at 274.
What
So
address is that, Greg?
this is 1021 Booker Drive. And so what I would do is, and I don't have time now, but I would run the comps and get the after repair value. I would use the Mayo formula and whatever
hmm
that told me that this is what the offer should be. My formula, my Mayo maximum
hmm
allowable offer is
hmm
what I would offer on this one. Which I think Booker Drive, the ARV is what? Is it 350, Dana?
On the three level, yes. The ones with the basements, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Somewhere in that area.
And this one doesn't show bad. Look,
Yeah,
Or it does.
the LVP on the flooring, paint.
it's decent.
Yeah, this one's decent.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's in good shape.
And
Good
so
shape.
this one probably the offer should be, let's see, 200 is 4, 175 is 350, about 175. I would
Mm-hmm.
offer 175 for this, and I'm just kind of guessing, but I'm probably
Mm-hmm.
and they make, I mean, at 48,000 at 48 days, they could take it, but that's how you do it on the ML. This is just one way to do it. Um, you can also, what I would also do, this is the last thing I'm gonna do. you can look at the expired listings,
Mm-hmm.
and you can go to expires. Let's just stay there. 20743. There's 72 properties that expired in the last 6 months. You can put as many days as you want
Mm-hmm.
here. And so now we just go here, we go to price and put them in order. Then we just start and just go down. Now these, you're going to skip trace to get the phone numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Call the owners because it's expired. You don't have to go through the agent.
One of the things I thought about as far as expires, because I've gone back sometimes as far as 1 or 2 years, the challenge that I've run into is have these been relisted? And I'm assuming that this means that I would need to go through a third party, like a different platform. Um,
No, you're an agent, right?
yes.
No, you just go through the MLS to see if it's been relisted.
Okay. It's time consuming, but okay. I
I mean,
thought there was a more effective, a more effective way to go in, but yeah, I can do manual.
You can pull up the tax record to see if it's been relisted or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
All right, any other questions, you guys? So look, if you guys have any questions, you can always go to GB Schedule and schedule a one-on-one with me. If you got questions about anything that we just learned, we do have a coaching program, you guys, um, that I would love for you to be part of our community. And so we've got a number of different ways to stay in touch. So if I was to go to our platinum coaching, we do have a platinum coaching. We actually still have our Black Friday sale going on. And I'll honor that. 2,500 is normally 5,000 for our Black Friday. You can be amongst some of the people that spoke today. And so when we go out in the field, it's part of what we do, and you'll be able to go out in the field with us. We have live training every week, Tuesdays and Wednesday. Keith teaches on Wednesday. My brother Keith. You have access to our toolkit where you get all the contract scripts, all the documents, marketing material, all those things are in our toolkit. Also, we have a membership site that has about 50 different videos on various topics. You're an accountability group. Investor services, you find a property, we'll vet the deal for you. We'll go out in the field, help you write the contract, help you negotiate. Unlimited one-on-ones. And then you have access to deals. A number of our investors in our community, they buy deals from both myself and all the other investors. And so I was talking to someone that wants to join our coaching program, and I said, look, if you're ready to buy and hold, we got deals for you. We get deals every single day. And so if you're interested, you can either go to interested in that, you can go to BBC Platinum or just schedule a one-on-one with me. Um, and then we do have I was talking about uh, our event next Friday. Starts next Friday, where it's a 2-day hybrid, where it's a Zoom class next Friday where I'm going to be talking about everything that we're going to be looking at on Saturday. Then on Saturday, we actually meet out in the field in Baltimore. Last month, we went to Prince George's County, actually Capitol Heights. And next Saturday, a week from this coming Saturday, the 20th, we'll be in Baltimore. And so I like Baltimore because you can buy low and rent high. It's the number one residential rental area in the United States. And so we're going to be looking at deals where we can buy and hold using creative financing strategies. We'll be looking at foreclosures, opportunities for you guys to buy. And then we'll be at Sabatino's in Little Italy for a nice three-course lunch where we'll debrief and we'll talk about everything that we just saw out in the field. So we'd love to have you guys. you can go to bennettbootcamps.com to register for that.
Greg, if I could speak up real quick, and I'm speaking to everybody on this call and people that are new, I would highly recommend joining his program. I've been with Greg for 3 years. I tried this many years ago and fell flat on my face because I didn't know what I was doing. But since I've been with Greg, I've become very successful. So I would definitely recommend it.
Dana even took home a free TV today.
For sure, yes. I took home a 50-inch TV today, hanging around Greg.
Look,
Thank you,
look
Greg.
at you. Look at God, Dana. Look at God. Won't he do it? Dana we had a like a happy hour. Was it last Thursday, a week from today? A week ago today,
Yes.
and we did a drawing. And through the grace of God, Dana has a home, but he doesn't have a lot of furniture, doesn't have a TV. He put his card in a jar, and we scrambled it around, and Dana won the TV.
TV.
And
Oh,
50
wow,
inch.
congrats.
that was
That's right.
that
And
was
Big Daddy Greg put it up. He put it up. He wasn't
the
playing.
tears that was flowing from Dana.
No, jokes aside, you all, this it's a great program. It's
He
done
did
me
win,
well.
he
My
did
life
win
has been changed forever.
he did win a TV though.
Yes, I did.
And so we do have a 4-day course coming up Monday. We got a lot of stuff going on, you guys. And that's 4 days of first day we go through sort of our business plan for investing, the different areas to invest in and why. Second day we go over strategy, more into how to wholesale real estate, how to fix and flip real estate, all the different types of buy and hold strategies. That's the second day. Third day, we go over how to find the deals. The investor that can find the most deals is going to make the most money. And so that's the second day, marketing, lead generation. That's the third day. The fourth day, we go over the financing and all the different types of financing to finance your deals. And so that's our 4-day course. That one is free. 4-day is Zoom again. 4-day is Zoom. And so it's at 8 o'clock, starting 8 o'clock on next Monday, Monday through Thursday. So we got a lot going on, you guys, that you need to be a part of. We'd love to see you guys out in the field with us, so you can go to Bennett Boot Camps. If you want to discuss any of the options or anything, you can just go to GB Schedule and schedule an appointment with me. I'd be happy to sit down and talk to you. My goal is for you guys to be successful as individuals, as people, but then financially successful. Um, Getting your finances in order takes a lot of stress off of you. It makes you feel good as a person. And so real estate investing is one way to do it. Your excuse is you don't have a team or resources or people that can help. We're here to help. Collectively, we're here to help. We want to be a blessing to you. This is part of our ministry, is to help you guys with your finances, help as many people as we can. And so this is one way that we can help you. So join us, you guys. All right. If there's no other questions or comments, um, I'd like to adjourn and just tell you guys that you don't need permission to build wealth. You need strategy, action, and commitment. Let 2026 be the year you stop waiting and start winning. Let's win, you guys. Let's all win together. If one of us rises, we all rise. All right, you guys. That's all I have for you guys. Take care. God bless you guys. And good night, everybody.
All
Take
right.
care.
Amen.
Thank
God
you.
bless you
Good
All right,
too,
take
and
care.
good night.
Take care.
Thank you, Greg.
Good night.
Welcome.
Good night, Greg. Thank you.
Night.